Adolf Hitler, dictator of Nazi Germany, 1933 to 1945, stands as a paramount figure of evil responsible for suffering. His most heinous crime was orchestrating the Holocaust, the systematic state-sponsored genocide that led to the murder of approximately 6 million Jews. Millions more, including Roma, disabled individuals, homosexuals, and political opponents, were also systematically targeted and annihilated. This wasn't merely a byproduct of war, but a calculated industrialized campaign of extermination driven by his anti-Semitism and belief in Aryan racial supremacy. Beyond the Holocaust, Hitler initiated World War II, a catastrophic global conflict ignited by his aggressive expansionist policies and insatiable desire for conquest. This war alone caused an estimated 70 to 85 million deaths worldwide, making it the deadliest conflict in history. His regime was characterized by extreme totalitarian control, brutal suppression of dissent, and a profound disregard for human rights, leaving an indelible mark of destruction and immense suffering on the 20th century. Joseph Stalin, dictator of the Soviet Union, from the mid-1920s until 1953, was responsible for the deaths and suffering of tens of millions of his own people. His regime was characterized by extreme brutality and systematic oppression. One of his most heinous wrongdoings was forced collectivization, violently seizing private land and livestock, forcing peasants onto collective farms. This directly caused widespread famine, most notoriously the Holodomor in Ukraine, 1932 to 1933, a man-made catastrophe that killed millions through starvation. Stalin also orchestrated the Great Purge, a period of intense political repression in the late 1930s. Millions were arrested, interrogated, and either executed or sent to vast forced labor camps known as the gulags. Here, countless political prisoners and ordinary citizens perished from starvation, exposure, and forced labor. Estimates of deaths attributable to Stalin's regime range from 20 to 60 million, cementing his place as one of history's most prolific mass murderers. Mao Zedong, chairman of the Communist Party of China from 1949 until his death in 1976, inflicted immense death upon his own people, solidifying his place as one of history's most devastating leaders. His most catastrophic policy was the Great Leap Forward, 1958 to 1962, an ambitious attempt to rapidly industrialize and collectivize agriculture. This misguided initiative led to the largest famine in human history, causing an estimated 30 to 45 million deaths through starvation, forced labor, and execution, as grain was often confiscated while peasants starved. Later, the Cultural Revolution, 1966 to 1976, plunged China into a decade of socio-political chaos. Aimed at purging perceived enemies and traditional culture, it resulted in widespread persecution, torture, and murder, destroying countless lives and historical artifacts. Intellectuals, former landlords, and anyone suspected of bourgeois tendencies were targeted. Overall, Mao's policies and purges are estimated to have caused the deaths of 45 to 78 million people, making his regime arguably the deadliest in recorded history. Leopold II, King of the Belgians from 1865 to 1909, committed atrocities through his personal ownership of the Congo Free State. His primary evil wrongdoing was orchestrating a brutal system of forced labor and ruthless resource exploitation, particularly for rubber and ivory, which transformed the Congo into his private terror-ridden empire. Under his direct command, the Congolese population endured horrific abuses. Villagers were cruelly forced to meet impossible rubber quotas, and failure resulted in severe punishment, including brutal mutilation, often the severing of hands, and the wholesale murder of entire communities. His private mercenary army, the Force Publique, enforced these barbaric policies with extreme violence, including widespread killings, torture, and the burning of villages to the ground. An estimated 10 million Congolese people died during his reign of terror, succumbing to murder, starvation, forced labor, and disease. This shocking death toll represents one of the most horrific genocides in colonial history, purely driven by insatiable greed and a complete, chilling disregard for human life. Pol Pot, leader of the Khmer Rouge regime in Cambodia from 1975 to 1979, unleashed a horrifying period of state-sponsored terror known as the Cambodian Genocide. His extremist agrarian socialist ideology aimed to transform Cambodia into a classless, rural society, leading to the brutal emptying of cities and forcing millions into collective farms and labor camps. Under his rule, anyone deemed an intellectual, former government official, city dweller, or member of an ethnic minority was targeted for execution. People were systematically murdered in the infamous killing fields. Beyond direct executions, millions perished from forced labor, starvation due to inadequate food distribution, and lack of medical care as the regime abolished money, healthcare, and education. In just under 4 years, an estimated 1.7 to 2 million Cambodians, nearly a quarter of the country's population, died as a direct result of Pol Pot's policies. His regime remains a chilling example of radical ideology leading to mass death and unimaginable suffering. Genghis Khan, who founded and led the Mongol Empire in the 13th century, was a brilliant military strategist, but also a figure of immense cruelty and destruction. His primary evil wrongdoings stemmed from the brutality of his conquests and the widespread devastation inflicted upon countless populations. As he expanded his empire across Asia and Eastern Europe, his armies practiced total warfare, often razing cities to the ground and massacring entire populations that resisted. Accounts describe horrific scenes of mass killings, with pyramids of skulls being erected as warnings to others. While exact figures are impossible to ascertain, historical estimates suggest that his campaigns were responsible for the deaths of tens of millions of people, significantly depopulating vast regions, including parts of Persia and China. His tactics included siege warfare, psychological terror, and the indiscriminate slaughter of civilians, including women and children, often leaving behind scorched earth. Though his empire fostered some cultural exchange later, its formation was built upon unparalleled violence and human suffering. Vlad III Dracula, known infamously as Vlad the Impaler, was a 15th century prince of Wallachia, modern-day Romania, whose rule was defined by extreme cruelty and a favored method of execution, impalement. This horrific practice, where victims were slowly skewered on wooden stakes, was his signature act of terror. Vlad's evil wrongdoings were widespread. He brutally tortured and executed tens of thousands, using impalement not only on Ottoman invaders and prisoners of war, but also on his own people, disloyal boyars, nobles, merchants he deemed dishonest, and common criminals. He famously orchestrated the Forest of the Impaled outside his capital, Targovishte, to intimidate invading Ottoman forces. His reign was characterized by a systematic use of fear and shocking violence to assert control and deter dissent. While some viewed him as a ruthless defender against Ottoman expansion, his methods were undeniably sadistic, earning him a reputation for unparalleled barbarity that centuries later inspired the legend of Count Dracula. Idi Amin, who served as Uganda's third president from 1971 to 1979, transformed the nation into a personal fiefdom marked by staggering brutality and widespread human rights abuses. His evil wrongdoings began almost immediately after seizing power in a military coup, consolidating power through extreme violence. Amin's regime was characterized by extreme political repression, ethnic cleansing, and severe economic mismanagement. He initiated widespread purges targeting specific ethnic groups like the Akoli and Lengo, perceived political opponents, and any suspected dissidents. His infamous security forces, including the State Research Bureau, engaged in systematic extrajudicial killings, pervasive torture, and forced disappearances, with countless bodies often found floating in the Nile. In 1972, he notoriously ordered the expulsion of approximately 80,000 Ugandan Asians, seizing their businesses and properties, which devastated the economy and exemplified his discriminatory policies. It's estimated that between 100,000 and 500,000 Ugandans perished under his tyrannical rule through direct murder, starvation, and neglect, plunging the country into chaos and international isolation. Kim Il-sung, the founder and first supreme leader of North Korea from 1948 until his death in 1994, established one of the 20th century's most oppressive and evil totalitarian states. His primary wrongdoing was creating a system of absolute control that subjected an entire nation to systematic human rights abuses and profound suffering. He built a pervasive cult of personality, demanding unquestioning loyalty and crushing all dissent. Kim Il-sung orchestrated extensive political purges, eliminating countless perceived rivals and disloyal citizens through executions, torture, and forced disappearances. His regime established brutal Kwanliso, political prison camps, where hundreds of thousands endured forced labor, starvation, and inhumane conditions, often for minor infractions or familial association. His economic policies and prioritization of military spending over civilian welfare laid the groundwork for severe food shortages and the devastating famine of the 1990s. He deliberately isolated North Korea from the world, denying its people basic freedoms, information, and the opportunity for a dignified life, creating a multi-generational legacy of oppression. Thank you for watching this video until the end. If you want to know about every major Allied power during World War II, then click here, like and subscribe for more videos like this. See you in the next one.